All right. So again, good morning. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Titan Orientation Program Summer Webinar Series, Arrive and Thrive. Really excited to have another amazing webinar for you all. And today we have, I think, a very timely and important topic on therapy, right? On mental health and the importance of that. And we have our subject matter experts in the house from our CAPS, our Counseling and Psychological Services team here to share some really important information, some tips, some advice, and some techniques as we're navigating this very rocky space in this time, right? I know as you are tuning in to these webinars, you're learning a lot of different things, and I felt like this is a really important topic to touch on. So really glad you all are tuning in for this episode. So if you are tuning in for the first time, just a few logistical things. We love questions. So even though we cannot see you, we can still engage with you. So as an attendee, you might see a Q&A feature, or you might see a chat icon. If you click the Q&A icon, you can ask a question to any one of us, and it will be on an open question, and we'll get to those questions. Or if you want to have more of a free flow chat, if you just want to make a comment, or if you have any other free-flowing conversations, you can put those in the chat. So those are the two ways in which we can communicate with you. So please ask questions throughout the webinar. If anything comes up or any points of clarification, we'd love to touch base and provide all the information that is important for you as an attendee. So I'll go ahead and kick us off. My name is Isaac Cervantes again. I serve as the Assistant Director for Titan Orientation Programs. We're putting on these Arrive and Thrive webinar series as an opportunity to share important information, but also so you all can feel prepared, engaged, and excited to start the fall semester, excuse me. So whether you're a first-year student coming in as a first-time freshman, or a transfer student, undergraduate transfer student, we're really thrilled and excited to have you join us for fall 2020, even though it's not ideal, right? We're not in person. So like I mentioned, these are meant to be provided as a resource for you, so you know the amazing resources that you have on campus and the people who are there to support you along the way. So I won't take up too much time. I'm excited to then turn it over to our campus partners, who will introduce themselves and then kick us off for our Arrive and Thrive episode. All right, I will pass it on to my friends in CAPS.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. I hope everyone's doing well this morning. My name is Jacqueline Vital. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I work within CAPS. And I'll pass it over to my colleagues.
Hey everybody, my name is Megan Bonning. I am also a licensed marriage and family therapist working with CAPS. I'm really excited that you decided to join us today, and I want to welcome you to the Titan family.
Hello, buenos dias. Good morning, everybody. My name is Alex Osorio. I'm a licensed clinical social worker as well, and I serve as a counselor and case manager at CAPS.
So today's introduction is really going to be about what we do at CAPS, and CAPS is actually Counseling and Psychological Services. So today we're going to have a conversation around mental health, and we're going to give you some tips and tricks on stress reduction and therapy, and really just introducing you to what we offer here on campus, which is an amazing opportunity that I hope all of you join in, because therapy is great. Okay, so like I mentioned, what we do here, we are called Counseling and Psychological Services. For short, we're called CAPS. Where we're located on campus is the Student Wellness Center on the west side. And once you get to campus, it might be a little confusing, but you'll get the hang of it really soon. We're a big center that says Wellness Center. Our hours right now, we are virtual, but our hours are 9 through 4, and our phone number is also there. And you can jot that down now, or you can jot it down later. We have another slide later, so we'll be sure to have it on. So what do we do at CAPS really, and why are we here? So we're really here because we are helping all of you adjust to college. I mean, coming to college, whether you're first year transfer or you're a new student, it's challenging and it can be kind of overwhelming sometimes. And so we are all professionals here, therapists, counselors, case managers that are really here to help all of you navigate, guide you in any way that we can. Some statistics here, 80% of US college students report feeling stressed every day, and 50% report they feel that their mental health is below average or poor. And 25% have a diagnosable mental health condition. And I can't stress enough, and I'm sure my colleagues can't either, how important mental health is. It is something that I think is equally as important as our physical health. And that's something that we need to nourish and feed. And if we do, we'll thrive in all aspects of our life. So here at CAPS, like I mentioned, we are comprised of professional staff. And so we have psychologists on our staff. We also have marriage and family therapists, such as myself and Megan, licensed social workers, such as Alex. We also have a psychiatrist on staff. We have 2, which is awesome. They are great helpers in consulting with us counselors about any medications that students might need for a great discounted price. And on board, we are also a training facility. So we also have doctoral psychological interns that do their practice here with us as well. And so the cost of receiving therapy at CAPS, the best part about this is that there's no additional cost. If you are enrolled in the semester, you actually can attend CAPS for free, which is amazing. So full-time and part-time students are covered. And the fee that you pay at the beginning of semester also covers a big amount of health services. So that's doctor visits, any women visits that you need to do, a lot of medications that you can get over the counter for such a great price. And unless you no-show or arrive 10 minutes after scheduled time, there is a $20 fee. And I'll tell you, when I started college years and years and years ago, I had no idea that something like this was offered on campus. And I truly wish I did, because I know that if I would have known that it came with my tuition and I would have to pay for it anyways, and that small fee could have helped me tremendously in talking to somebody guiding me through something that I was going through in college. And so that's why I'm so excited to present this to all of you today, because this is something I wish I knew when I was in college. And so a few of our services available, we have a lot of services. One of them are intake assessments. And these are basically assessments in which the professional gets to know you, gets to understand what's going on, why are you seeking services, what the best route to take would be. We also do individual therapy, which is the bulk of what we do. And we also offer group therapy, which we'll get into later. We have so many group therapies that we're offering this fall, which is awesome. It's going to be virtual, but we have a range of group topics that we focus on. And the groups are about 8 students. And this past spring, I ran a group on building self-esteem and confidence. I know Megan ran an awesome group on vulnerability. And there are just art therapy groups, grieving groups, just so many things available. And there's something special about being in a group, sharing a space with other people who can resonate with what you're going through, sharing a space with other people who you know is a safe space to talk about things that you might have felt alone otherwise. We also offer medication services, like I had mentioned, crisis services, case management, which Alex does an awesome job at. And we also do outreach presentations like what we're doing today. So for therapy, we have a few session limits for individual and couples counseling. Approximately within the academic year, we have seen that students take up about 5 to 7 sessions an academic year. And of course, we are also allowing them to come back every academic year. And if you are in a couple, in a relationship, that is also offered within CAPS. And the great thing about it is as long as you and your partner are in the CSU system, that will be eligible for services. Like I had mentioned, we offer group counseling. The great thing about this is there's no limit on how many groups you can do. So if you're interested in art therapy, as well as building self-esteem and confidence, as well as a grieving group, a grieving support group, those are all things that you can do at the same time if your schedule allows it, of course. And for those who require more intensive work, we have great case managers like Alex and our other colleague Solomon who help you who help you with your insurance, help you look for outside referrals, things in the community that can help with more intensive work. And so I think it's important that we talk about what CAPS helps with. CAPS, these are just common issues that we work with. But I know in talking with a lot of students, a lot of people think that, I should only go to therapy if, something huge in my life happened or something that's almost like debilitating that I can't handle it. But no, that's not the case at all. A lot of the things that we deal with on a daily basis are just, anxiety with the changes going on in college, coping with stress, family problems, especially during this time right now in quarantine. It's difficult navigating being at home. Being at home, you might not have lived at home during college, or now that we're moving and we're, dorming now, things are so different. And those are all things that we work with. But also the big events, traumatic events, racism that's going on, death and grieving, even everyday concerns that we're dealing with, eating issues, confidence and self-esteem, academics is a huge one. The pressures that happen and that can occur in college are all things that we can help with.
So I want to talk a little bit about the barriers that some people might face. Maybe you're kind of listening to this and saying like, okay, cool, but that doesn't seem to fit with the way that I've been taught to think about therapy and mental health. There's a lot of myths and a lot of stigma being perpetuated, even still. It's 2020, but we're still working through kind of getting over the hump to actually convincing ourselves, okay, maybe this is a good idea for me. So where does the stigma come from? It comes from people, sometimes even our family and friends, right? We get these messages throughout our life that we should be a certain way, think a certain way, be able to deal with our problems on our own, and that we shouldn't have to ask for help. Sometimes it comes from the media, sometimes it comes from the culture around us. Sometimes, it even comes from ourselves and our own emotions about how we're taught to deal with things. Maybe we feel kind of shameful reaching out for help. Maybe we feel like a sense of pride, like I ought to be able to deal with this on my own. Maybe it's the fear that comes from actually having to there's something about opening your mouth, putting it into words, and saying it to another person that's frankly intimidating. I've been there too. But these types of things, the things on this slide, maybe some of these things sound really familiar to you. It's harmful because everybody needs an outlet. Everybody needs somebody to listen without judging them, and everybody needs help sometimes. You can be the most competent, confident, awesome person in the world and still have to ask for help sometimes. So the role of a therapist isn't to be somebody who knows better than you and who can show you a better way because we have all the answers. The role of the therapist is to be somebody who will accompany you gently, to be curious with you, to help you find your own path. So I want to kind of take away some of that power differential. A therapist is there to empower you, not to tell you what to do. So like Jackie mentioned, therapy can be for really big concerns like trauma, severe depression. It can be for everyday concerns like building better relationships or just wanting to get you to know yourself better. But there really doesn't have to be something wrong for you to go to therapy. I think that at some points, culture can really play a role in this as well. Different cultures handle the question of mental health and therapy very differently. And there's really no right or wrong answer. Having one culture say don't bottle things up. You should talk about this. You should be very open about it, be vulnerable. That's awesome. And then other people will say like, hey, I don't want to burden other people in my life. I don't want to talk about it and see if it gets worse. I don't really think there's one thing that's better or worse than another. It really matters what works for you. The key there, though, is that it has to work for all the different parts of yourself, right? Not just the ones that feels more comfortable dealing with it on your own. What I have seen happen sometimes is that when we don't deal with the things that we really need to deal with and really need to sort out, it can come up in other ways. For example, anger, addiction, nightmares, poor relationships, poor boundaries, even physical symptoms like muscle tightness, headaches, stomach aches. All of these are ways that our system as a whole tries to deal with the stuff going on in our lives. And if we don't get it out and deal with it in a way that works for us as individual people, it can cause other problems. So for some people, you know, if you're kind of sitting there and being like, all right, well, this kind of sounds more comfortable, but what about confidentiality? What about, like, you know, I don't want my parents to find out. I don't want my friends to find out. I don't want people to look at me differently. Luckily, all of us counselors at CAPS, and basically any other counselor you would go see, whether it's through CAPS or not, we're sworn to secrecy. We take our confidentiality very seriously. It's illegal for us to speak to anybody else about this without your express consent. I think that if you are willing to try it out, especially if you haven't before, I bet that you find a lot of these fears around being judged really might be the furthest thing from the truth when you speak with a therapist. Our main concerns are confidentiality and compassion. So we want to reassure you that if you want to take the next step, we're here from you. So now I think we're going to shift gears a little bit, go into stress, coping, and practical tips.
All right, thank you, Megan. So as Jackie mentioned earlier, just transitioning to college, whether it be from high school or from your local community college, that in itself can be very stressful, overwhelming. It's a new experience, so it can be challenging. So now that we're going into school virtually, that could bring up a whole new set of challenges. Even for us professionals, we transitioned to working from home back in mid-March. So even that for us was a big transition, getting used to the technology, setting up a workspace at home when you don't have an extra room to go work in. You have to set up wherever you can. So I wanted to go ahead and touch on some tips that can help students adjust to the having to learn virtually. And maybe some of us, you'll be working virtually as well. If you have an internship or if you have a job, a part-time or full-time job, you might be doing both working and learning from home. So I wanted to share some tips because I know that it can become overwhelming. It can add to more mental distress or anxiety, depression. So we wanted to make sure that we took some preventative measures to prepare you for that transition if it is that you need some extra help with that. So we can go to the next slide. So here are some common challenges that us professionals have found, but also some of the students that we have been talking to throughout the summer and the end of last semester. So of course, running into technical issues, learning how to use Zoom, learning how to use the various classroom platforms that you all will have to use to do your assignments, to submit your homework and things like that. So these are challenges that come up. Distraction and time management. Now I work at home, I do school at home, I eat at home. I'm probably doing it all in the same room, in my bedroom. How do I manage my time better? How do I set boundaries and prevent people that are living with me or my puppy from coming in and distracting me every time I have to do something? Staying motivated. Sometimes, especially with social distancing, not going out and having that physical, personal interaction with people, we may start to become sad or depressed or feeling isolated. So how do we keep ourselves motivated? Understanding coursework or work expectations. So again, if I'm in a class and I'm not understanding the coursework, especially as a freshman or as a transferring student, this is a whole new system for me, the Cal State system. Am I understanding everything I need to do? Do I understand everything on the syllabus? Do I understand how to use all the platforms? So that can be challenging. Lack of in-person interaction, I already talked about that. It can really affect you emotionally, for some people more than others. the technology. I already talked about that as well. And then uncertainty about the future. So, all right, I'm in school, gonna get my degree, but how long is this gonna go for? Am I going to have to go to school virtually for a long time? What happens when like a lot of my senior students that I was working with this last semester, they were like, okay, I'm gonna get my bachelor's, but there are no jobs. What am I gonna do? They started stressing out, having some anxiety about that. So there's a lot of different things about uncertainty about the future that can cause us some anxiety. So how do we deal with that? So we'll talk about some tips in the next slides. So let me move this out of the way. So here are some tips for both remote learning and work. So the ones on the left, make your bed. There was a Navy SEAL who spoke at a graduation a couple years ago, and he gave a speech about making your bed every morning and what that does for you. It's a simple task, but he said, if you can be good at doing the simple, easy tasks, you'll be better at doing the harder tasks. Or vice versa. If you can't even do the simple tasks, what makes you think you're going to be good at doing the bigger tasks? So something as simple as making your bed every day, having that first thing that you accomplish for the day, that can give you some motivation to then tackle the next task and the next task and the next task. And he says, even if you have like a horrible day, at the end of the day, you can come home to a bed that you made, and you can just come and lay down on the made bed. So something as simple as that. It kind of reminds me of also Eat That Frog. The book Eat That Frog, it talks about how in the mornings you should tackle the most tedious, the most challenging task that you have for the day. That task that you're trying to like avoid, you don't want to deal with, try to get that out of the way as soon as possible. So eat that frog. That frog is that one task that you just don't want to do, but just go ahead and take care of it first thing in the morning, and then you have the rest of the day to take on other stuff. Use planners and create lists. So make sure you schedule everything. And I'll go into it a little bit later on too. But look at your syllabus, look at all the assignments that are coming up, put them into your schedule, so that way you know already when things are due. When I was in grad school, I would get white pieces of paper, and on each piece of paper I would write down the assignment that was due for that semester. I taped it up to my blank wall in my bedroom, and every time I would finish one assignment, I would come with a red marker and put a big X on the paper, and I would leave it up there so I can see all the different things I was accomplishing. And that kind of created like a snowball effect. As I started putting red X's on each of those papers, it made me feel like I was making progress, because sometimes when you're in the middle of the semester, it feels like the assignments are never ending, and if you're a visual person, it's good to see that you are making some progress, especially in a virtual setting. Use alarms and take breaks. So make sure you take active breaks, go for walks, stretch, go play with your puppy for a bit, and then come back and get to work. Create routines and transitions. Going to school, going to work in the morning on that drive, it usually gives you, it's a transition time. You're thinking about what you're going to do for the day. You're listening to a podcast. That commute to work or school, it serves as a transition for a lot of us. So create a transition or a transition activity for yourself, even if you're going to be virtual. So I had a student say, every morning before I start class, I go for a 15-minute walk, and that's my commute to class. And there's a lot, and I put on some earphones and listen to podcasts and things like that. So create something like that for you. Set up your workspace. So create a space where you work. Pay attention to like the colors that you're using. There's this thing, at the bottom there, you see color psychology. So red, green, blue, and yellow. Those are, if you look up color psychology, you'll find that those colors, they activate, just your brain, your focus, your concentration, your relaxation. So make sure you bring colors into your space, either by LED lights or the colors of your office supplies, paintings, anything that you can to kind of activate the different emotions that those colors bring into your space. So that's something just kind of creative to do. Set work hours, set boundaries. After this time, even though I'm still here, technically, I'm going to stop working after 5 o'clock. I'm going to set boundaries with the people that I live with. I'm going to go post my schedule on the refrigerator so people know what I'm doing, and they don't just come and knock on my door randomly. Tell them, hey, when my door's closed, don't bother me, I'm working. When it's open, that means you can come in if you have a question. So setting those boundaries with your roommates, with your family, with your guardians, whoever it is that you're living with. Take time, lunchtime, take it out of your workspace. At the beginning of all this, I was eating at my office desk or my workspace, and I said, you know what? No, I need to go outside to the patio and have lunch there. I just need to create some separation between work and lunchtime. So pay attention to that. Have walking meetings. If you are in a class or in a meeting for work, that you can put on earphones and go for a walk while you're listening in, where you don't have to be sitting there and taking notes, or you can take notes on your phone. Go for a walk while you're in that meeting. That may be helpful and gets you some exercise, get you some vitamin D, some sun. Take advantage of some of the perks of being home. We're home, so maybe midday you can bake some cookies and you can smell it while you're working, and that's something that you wouldn't be able to do if you had to go into work. You can do laundry, things like that. You can take a break and go play with your puppy. So there's some positive things that come with this, and try to focus on how you can incorporate those into making your your day more enjoyable. We talked about managing distractions. This is specifically about cell phones or social media, because this comes up a lot with my students. Like, I find myself always on my phone. And, when I'm in class, obviously I can't be on my phone because my professor's watching me. But right here, we're on Zoom. I'm always on my phone on the side. Like, put it away. Put it in a different room. Work for 2 hours and say, after I work for 2 hours, I'm gonna go take a 30-minute break, go check my Twitters or whatever it is that we have, and then leave the phone back over there and come back to work in the other room. So create things like that based on what you need. You know yourself best. What kind of boundaries or rules do you need to put for yourself? Pay attention to ergonomics. So ergonomics, if you look it up, it has to do with how your space is meeting your kind of physical needs. At what level is your computer screen at? Are you sitting comfortably? Do you have a comfortable chair? Are you having to strain your neck up or down to look at your screen? So if you look up ergonomics, you'll find a lot of stuff on how to have a space where you're not going to end up with, a backache, a neck ache. Your wrists are going to be hurting from carpal tunnel syndrome because you're not sitting comfortably when you're typing. So pay attention to that. Wear blue light glasses if you're going to be spending a lot of time looking at screens. I know that's really popular right now. Look up some blue light glasses that may, to protect your eyes. And also, there's this little rule about 20-20-20. It says every 20 minutes to take 20 seconds to look at something 20 feet away, to kind of give your eyes some rest from looking at the screen. And I already talked about color psychology, so you can Google that, see what kind of colors you want to bring into your space. In terms of class time, I already talked about, not multitasking. When you're in class, have your camera on. That way you can kind of engage as much as you can. Make sure you ask questions if the professor's allowing you to ask questions, to interact with them. Don't try not to be on your phone and lose track of what's going on, because it's so easy to be responding to a text and all of a sudden you miss the last 10 minutes of what the professor was saying, which might have been important for your assignment and things like that. So avoid multitasking. Now I'll just kind of counter to what I was saying, but maybe create a Facebook group so where your classmates can all get together and share ideas and set up study sessions. I was in a class 2 years ago where we created one of these, and there was a lot of interaction going on there instead of having to text somebody or in a large text group. Or you can also use the platforms that are already set up in your school at Cal State Fullerton. So maybe there are already chat rooms in there that you can use when you can meet up and talk to your classmates. I already talked about keeping your cameras open to allow for that social connection. Engage with the professor, take notes, and ask questions. And then lastly, when you're studying, what can you do to make sure that you don't get tired, you don't get unmotivated when it comes to studying in a virtual setting? Create a calendar with all your upcoming assignments, like I said before. Use different studying techniques. How long are you able to study? Are you the person that can cram for a long time, or do you need to take little study breaks in between? The Pomodoro method is one of the methods that I found that a lot of people say is effective. Pomodoro is the Italian word for tomato. So this guy that was timing himself once, he was using a tomato-shaped egg timer to time himself, and he found that if you study for, I believe it was like 20 or 25 minutes, and then take a 5-minute break, do another 25 minutes, 5-minute break, another 25 minutes, 5-minute break. So you do it 4 times, and after the 4th time, you take a 30 to an hour break, and you go back to 20 to 20. So you break down your study times into 20. I can't remember if it's 20 or 25 minutes, but if you look it up, you'll get it. And it's artists use it, entrepreneurs use it. It's a way to kind of break down and not become so fatigued by studying or doing work for a long period of time. So find what works for you. What's going to be the best study method for yourself? Create a motivating work environment. So I already talked about space, how you create a motivating space. I like to bring in essential oils into my space. So I'm like diffusing citrus oils, orange, lemon, to kind of just invigorate me, make me happy. I put spearmint on yesterday, spearmint and lemon, and that was like uplifting when I was feeling groggy. Bring in colors, bring in music, bring in paintings, things that you like that. I have a little disco ball. When I'm really getting tired at 3 p.m., I put my disco ball on with music and I have a party in my room. Hey, hey. So create a motivating environment for yourself, okay? Recreate your favorite study place. If you like studying at the library, if you like studying at a coffee shop, how can you bring some of that ambience, some of those things that you like about those places into your study space? Maybe you want to study at the counter in your kitchen and put some music on, put some elevator music, and I'm studying at Starbucks now. Like create something like based on what you're used to studying at. Try to recreate it at home as best as you can. I already talked about putting the phone away. We've talked a little bit about online study sessions, but make those fun. Create like a little game show or like quiz each other, test each other, have some accountability with your classmates. And it's really important that you, and I know it's hard coming to a new school with new people, but try to socialize and create, friendships and get to know other people around you. It's harder now because you're not just sitting next to somebody where you can just reach over, hey, how you doing? My name is Alex. Now it's all virtual. So try to, and hopefully the professors are doing a good job with trying to create ways that you all can interact right at the beginning. If not, take initiative. Go ahead and you take initiative yourself and try to get to meet people. Hey, anybody want to do a happy hour Zoom and so we can get to know each other? Propose it. Don't be afraid of that. I'll bet you will have out of a 40 students in the class or whatever it be, you'll have a couple that show up and you just start building relationships with them. And make sure you attend office hours and other tutoring services. So a lot of the tutoring services that are on campus, they are still offering free tutoring virtually. So don't forget that, whether it is, the learning center, the science, the STEM department, I forgot what they're called, but they are still offering tutoring services that are available. So don't forget about those and make sure you attend your professor's study office hours. Okay, next slide. It looks like we're having some questions coming in, so we'll get to those. And what I want to say here is just that, whatever it is that we're feeling, anxious, frustrated, lonely, unmotivated, depressed, whatever it is that you're feeling, that is where you are. And that is okay. And that is normal. And I bet there's tons of other people that are feeling that same way as well. So we want to remind you, and just like Megan was talking about the stigmas and things like that, that it's okay, that there's nothing wrong with you, that this is a challenging time that we're going through, and it's a big transition that you all are embarking on, a big journey. So it's okay to feel that way. That's where you're at. Acknowledge it, don't judge it, and seek the help that we're here to offer to you all. And that's okay. And we're here to help, to not judge, to not say we know better than you, but you're the expert in your own journey. You're the expert on what you're going through, on your experience. We're just here to guide and coach you through processing that and getting the help that you need. Next slide, please. All right.
Okay, so I think we're going to transition into how to cope with stress. So I want us to take a minute and think about stress, and something that I learned, and I'm still learning it myself. I'm still, believing it in every day, is that stress isn't always bad. And, when we think about stress, we think that it's such a negative thing. But in actuality, if we didn't have any stress in our lives, studies have shown that we are that much more unmotivated. We are not as ambitious. We often will get bored. And so having a little bit of stress in our lives is actually a good and healthy thing. Now, stress gets difficult in our lives when the demands of our life actually outweighs our coping skills. And so the best thing that I love to do with students, and even in my own life, is practice these coping skills every day, so that in the event that the demands happening in my life are becoming too overwhelming to handle, I kind of have a little toolbox of things that I can use to cope with that. So some of the things that we put together, one of them are identifying what your unhealthy coping skills are. If you take a minute and you think, what are you currently doing right now when you're under stress that's holding you back? So if you were to think about the last time that you were stressed out, the last time that you felt really overwhelmed, what were some of those unhealthy habits that you were doing? I know a lot of people, unhealthy habits are, on their phone too much, or, unhealthy eating habits, or isolating themselves for quite a while. Those are things to think about. And as soon as we can identify what our unhealthy coping skills are, is when we can then change them into healthier habits. And the next one is changing our attitude. There's something I say, and it's a quote that I love, and it says, you know, change the way you think and I'll change the world. And I wholeheartedly believe that, because once we are aware of our negative thoughts, when we're aware of them, we can then talk back to them in a kinder, calmer way. No judgment on our negative thoughts, because we're human and we all have them. But talking back to those thoughts and saying, you know, hey, is this thought helpful for me right now? Is this thought helping me in any way? What can I do to think in a different way? And once we can change our thoughts, it really all comes together. It changes our behavior. Once we change our thoughts, it changes the way that we view the world, changes the way we view people, and it changes our situation. I had a student one time, and our student said, you know, if you were to look at a tree, and I asked the student, if you were to look at a tree and you were to say, and I were to ask you, what are the first things you'd say about this tree? What would you say? And the student said, well, I would say it's an ugly tree. And I said, great answer. Thank you for being honest. But what about if we were to change that and reframe your thoughts? Changing our lens a little bit, and changing our lens into thinking about, what if you saw this tree as it had leaves that are growing, and the leaves are just not the season right now, but it's coming in bloom. That's just our way of changing our perspective and changing our thoughts. Another good one we thought of was building and maintaining relationships, especially during this time more than anything, creating meaningful relationships right now. If you were to think about, when was the last time that you went out of your way and called a friend to see how they were doing? I know during this time it's hard to meet up with friends with the social distancing laws and everything, but you know, picking up that phone and seeing how someone's doing and just having a meaningful conversation with them. That's so important in handling stress, is having our support system one phone call away. The next one is developing a stress relief toolkit. And so thinking about, what can you add to your toolkit? I think of these as, you know, daily things that make us happy. If you think about, what are the top 5 things that you need to do every day to make you happy? Some of the things that I love to do is walking outside, just getting fresh air, cuddling with my dogs, you know, planting. These are all things that I would add to my stress relief toolkit, that I know when I'm stressed, I can pull things out, and I know going for a walk and breathing some fresh air makes me feel better. I'm gonna pull that out. If that doesn't work, I'm gonna go cuddle with my dogs. That doesn't work, you know, and I have this toolkit of things that I can pull from. And that's the whole purpose of creating, you know, something that we can pull from to help us during tough times.
And I'll talk a little bit about sleep hygiene. I know as college students, you hear a lot about, oh man, when you go to college, you don't even have time to sleep. You're doing a lot of work. You have roommates, you all stay up late and chat. But sleep is very important. You need to get good rest to be able to be effective and be productive the next day. So creating a good sleep hygiene routine every night is very helpful. So what does that look like? It's going to be different for everybody. It depends on what you're into, what you like. So for some of us, it might be just do a stretching routine right before bed. Get some stretches in, do some yoga, do some meditation, do some prayer, whatever it is that you think might help you. Just, it's kind of like a reminder or an alarm telling your body, oh, he's starting his yoga. That means that we're about to go to bed in about 15 minutes. So the more you practice that, you start training your body to kind of know, whenever he starts doing this, that means we're about to knock out. So let's start shutting our brain down. Let's start shutting, you know, everything down. Essential oils, I'm gonna bring it up again because I'm a fan of essential oils. Use some lavender oil, rub it on the bottom of your feet. Make sure you're using oil that you can use topically. Don't get the stuff from Walmart and Target and put it on your body, because that'll irritate you. So you want to make sure that you read the labels. Can it be used topically, aromatically, internally? So don't go and rub oil on all over your body and say, oh, the therapist told me to do that and now I have a big rash. No, check your labels, because I use a certain brand that I can rub it on myself. Other brands you can't, because they have different chemicals. So, or just put it in a diffuser. Lavender, Serenity. There's an oil I called Balance. This is really relaxing. Sleeping cycles. I don't know if you all have heard of sleeping cycles, but we go through different sleep cycles that are about, I think it's 90 minutes. every cycle. So you want to make sure that you're going to sleep so that you wake up at the end of a cycle. If you wake up in the middle of a cycle, you're waking up in the middle of deep sleep and you kind of disrupt your sleep. So Google a little bit on sleeping cycles. There's a good website that I'm going to give you right now. It's called sleepyti.me. So sleepy time, but there's a dot in between. So it's sleepyti.me. So sleepy time with a dot right before the ME. And it's a calculator. You put in what time you want to, here, let me look at it. You put in what time you want to wake up at. And then it'll calculate what times should you try to go to sleep so that you're going to sleep at the beginning and waking up at the end of a cycle. So that you're getting up refreshed at the end of a sleeping cycle instead of in the middle of one. So that's a good one, good thing to look at for sleep cycles. Do you want to take a warm shower before bed to kind of signal your body it's time to go to bed? There's this research on cold showers to help you sleep. Look into that. Again, don't go take cold showers and tell you that say that the therapist told you to go take freezing cold showers. Do some research. There's this guy called the Iceman. If you look up the Iceman, he did a lot of stuff on breathing. He talks a lot about cold showers and cold baths. So look up the Iceman. His name is Wim Hof, WIMHOFF, Wim Hof. And also remember that your bed is only for sleeping. So try to avoid eating in bed, working in bed, doing other stuff in bed, because then again, that trains your body to say, oh, he's getting into bed. That means we're about to get on the computer. Like, no, when you're getting onto your bed physically, it should tell your body it's time to sleep. But it's not going to work if you're constantly doing other stuff in your bed. So something sounds kind of, does that really work? Sounds kind of simple, but it has worked. Just use your bed for sleep, do other stuff. Even your bedroom, try to do other stuff outside of your bedroom. Okay, next slide. Here's some more like coping techniques. So breathing, deep breathing exercises, that'll help you with, stress, feeling overwhelmed. One of my favorites is alternating nostril breathing, where you breathe in through one nostril at a time. So if you Google alternating nostril breathing, that's a really good technique that I used to use a lot with students that I used to work at juvenile hall and probation camps, so prison facilities. And my kids at first, they were like, that's kind of weird, but then they would ask for it. They would want to do it. So it's really helpful. It helps you relax. It really drops your shoulders right away. You can feel the relaxation. Gratitude exercise. Oh, go ahead, Jackie.
Sorry, I do want to say something about breathing that I think is super important, because I know that there's so many people that talk about the benefits of breathing. And a lot of us wonder, what's the big deal? I breathe all the time. How can that help me? And I have to be honest, I was one of those people. When I started therapy later in my life, in my graduate career, because like I mentioned, I didn't know about CAPS when I actually went to Cal State Fullerton. My therapist had told me to deep breathe. And that's what we're telling all of you to do. And we're telling you the benefits of breathing. And just like you might look at your therapist silly and say, I'm not going to deep breathe. Like, what is that going to do for me? That's going to do absolutely nothing. But there is a reason why we encourage it so much. And the reason for that is because studies have shown that when we take a moment and deep breathe and breathe slowly, we actually get a signal that gets sent to our brain, and our brain is then telling us to slow down. And in the most simplest terms, it's the best way I can describe it, is when we practice every day how to deep breathe slowly, our brain is learning how to slow down. And when our brain learns to slow down, that's how we decrease our anxiety, we decrease our stress, and our mental health really increases altogether. And so in case you're wondering what's the big deal with breathing, that's really what it is we slow down our mind and our body because it's all connected. And so that's a little story that I wanted to tell you guys, because I was definitely that person that didn't believe in it, but I wholeheartedly do now. And I would never practice what I don't preach myself. So,
and it's backed up by evidence, like the alternating nostril breathing. It gets oxygen to both the right and left side of your brain, and it helps to bring a balance between those two sides. So there's some research behind that. If you look it up, it'll tell you it's actually, like Jackie is saying, it actually is working. I'll touch on these bullet points on the right up here on the top right. The loving kindness meditation, that is a guided meditation that you press play, and it kind of just tells you to close your eyes, and it gives you some directions on what to do. And it's really relaxing. It's about 15 minutes, 19 minutes, depending on which one you do, but it's usually about 15. coping with coronavirus, that is a link that's going to take you to a lot of other resources, coping skills, articles, things like that, that'll help students kind of just how to work through all the transitions, all the changes. I found it really helpful when I found that. Let's see, Jackie, you have anything on the other two?
So going down the list on how to cope with stress, practicing gratitude is something that we all encourage. Creating a gratitude journal is something that I love to do every night before bed. Really simple. I'll write down 5 things that I'm grateful for that day. And there's something about it. At the end of the week, I like to go back and read it. And it kind of puts my life in perspective. It puts what's happening in the world in perspective, because there's so many things that happen on a daily basis, just the smallest things. Something as small as, someone opening the door for you. Something as small as a friend calling and asking, how are you? Little things like that are things that we might not realize is making our day, but it does. And there's something really powerful about writing things down. There's something so powerful about writing a letter to somebody and creating a gratitude journal to look back on. Because when we get to read it, we realize like, wow, that day was a good day. And I was grateful for some things that I probably wouldn't even realize. Practicing self-compassion, self-talk, talking to yourself in a kind way is something so, so important. Something I always like to ask my clients all the time is, when your best friend comes to you and your best friend tells you, I'm having a bad day, I can't believe I did this, I can't believe this happened, what would you say to them? And I bet you 9 times out of 10, you would probably tell them like, hey, it's okay. It happens. A better day is coming. Don't worry about it. You're supportive. And that's exactly the way that I want us to practice to talk to ourselves. And if we think about it that way, I think it's just a little bit more powerful to think, how can I be so supportive to my best friend or my family member when they're having a bad day? But if I myself am having a bad day, I can be so hard on myself. And so sometimes it's nice to think, how would I talk to my best friend if they were going through what I'm going through? Let me try talking to myself that way too. And see, you will feel a difference. And, of course, taking care of yourself, eating healthy, exercising on a regular basis, getting plenty of sleep like Alex talked about, and drinking a lot of water. We know that's so important because mind, body, and soul is all connected. Talking to somebody, we talked about the importance of having a great support system. And lastly is checking out our CAPS website. We have so many resources on there for all of you guys to use. We also have wellness workshops that are coming in the fall, which are workshops learning about thoughts, mood, sleep. And like I had mentioned, we also have so many groups that are coming up. But check out our website. We have so many websites and articles for you guys to look at.
And I did put those links in the chat for you on the last slide, the loving kindness meditation, the coping with coronavirus, and also the CAPS website. So you should be able to just click on those. So kind of going a step beyond the CAPS website, which does have a lot of great stuff on there. We have recordings of our wellness workshops, which review, I think it's sleep, thought, and mood. And those can be really helpful. So we've got recordings of those. We've got recordings of other stress relieving tips and tricks. We've got all sorts of numbers to call if you need to call someone. There's a ton of resources on there. But You at Fullerton is the newest initiative launched by our campus as a all-in-one virtual wellness bonanza palooza. Yes, bonanza palooza. It's a humongous set of resources to help you succeed, to thrive, and to matter, not only on campus, but in the larger community and in your life even as you leave campus. So basically, you would log on to this top link here, u.fullerton.edu. It is a little confusing because it's called U at Fullerton, but it's u.fullerton.edu. You log in with your campus portal, username and password, the same one that you use to log onto your portal, and it pops up with these like tons of resources, articles, videos, numbers to call. There's a little crisis button in the top right of that screen that if you click on that, They'll give you names of hospitals, names of programs, names of crisis numbers, text lines, just all the things you could possibly want or imagine, all at your fingertips. It helps you to set goals for yourself, to track your progress on your goals. It's confidential and it's free. This set of resources goes above and beyond anything that I've ever seen compiled, and I've seen a lot of things compiled. So I would really encourage you, especially as you're starting your journey with us at Fullerton, to go ahead and log on and make that part of your at least weekly, if not daily, self-care routine. Because I think that a lot of people, they don't know what's out there because there's so much information, but here it's all funneled directly through one website. You get to log on once and kind of handle it. So you guys should all, since you're incoming students, you all have your username and password for your Titan Health portal or for the Titan portals. So log on to that right now, after this webinar, later today, whatever. Just don't forget about it. This is one of the best resources that we can offer you. So cannot say it enough, but please do that. Last but not least, if you feel like, hey, these resources are great, you at Fullerton is awesome, but I'd like to talk to somebody. I'd like to have this be a little more of a human contact thing. You can make an appointment with CAPS. Like Jackie was saying earlier, we have a lot of different types of appointments. We have individual therapy, we have group therapy, which we're going to have a lot of groups this fall, and they're all going to be really spectacular. Our staff is really passionate about helping our students. So, and that's a great way to not eat up your session limits and count, because, there's so many students at Fullerton, we can only accommodate a certain number of sessions for each student. The average used is 5 to 7, but with group therapy, we can take everybody in. So I would really encourage you all to sign up for groups as those become announced this fall. We have the psychiatrist appointments. So if you want to sign up for any of our services here at CAPS, just call that number that's underlined there, 657-278-3040. That will connect you to the front desk at CAPS. They are there at the front desk between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. and they would be more than happy to get you scheduled. You'll be eligible for services at the start of the semester in the fall, so that's mid-August. We will be virtual for the fall semester, so if you're seeking face-to-face services, we can't help you out with that at CAPS, but we can help you get connected with someone face-to-face. So even if you're like, hey, I don't want to do a Zoom session, still call us anyway. And our awesome case managers like Alex would be more than happy to help hook you up with people nearby in the community, also for a very low cost, to make sure that you get what you need out of therapy, even if it's not with us. Our interests really are in helping you, not getting you to come see me in particular. So if you do decide to use us, though, please know that our Zooms and all of our note-taking systems, it's all HIPAA compliant, because like I mentioned earlier, confidentiality and security are among our top priorities. So you can see the little map of campus. I know it's kind of hard to see details on there, but we're sort of toward the back of the campus before you hit the big old soccer fields and tennis courts and all that stuff. If you are a student at the Irvine campus, we also have CAPS services at the Irvine campus. They are located in room 147, but they're also virtual, so just call that secondary number down there, which is 657-278-1628, and they would be more than happy to get you hooked up there as well.
Awesome. Well, there you have it, folks. I really hope you enjoyed this webinar. I want to thank our panelists for today, Megan, Jackie, Alex, for providing such great, insightful, practical, easy to follow tips and advice and enlightenment on, mental health. I think is really important. I took some notes myself, so I definitely found it very helpful. But folks, definitely stay connected with us. I'm sharing our department websites, and for us, we're really active on social media. So if you really enjoyed this webinar, if you're enjoying our webinar series, if you're continuing, keep following us, encouraging your friends or other incoming students that you know to follow us, just so they can also tune into these great webinar series. So if you have any questions about orientation or anything webinar related, reach out to us via email. We have a lot of great information on things to come for the fall on our website. That's going to be showcase later on this month. And then of course, CAPS, again, if you need anything with all of the great resources, webinar series that they're planning in the fall, or if you want to speak to someone, their website is also really great, easy to navigate. So definitely take a look at there. I hope you all enjoyed today. I did. I'm very thankful for our campus partners and friends. These are always great to do, and I'm always thankful for that partnership. So y'all stay in touch. I want to thank you all again for tuning in this Friday. I'm gonna just quickly look at the chat just to see if there's anything that I see, but I know that our folks have been on the chat. I don't think I'm missing any questions here.
Isaac, if I can just respond to one of the comments real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody mentioned something about expectations of parents. I would definitely encourage you all to invite your parents to attend some of the virtual orientation workshops that are happening specifically for parents. I know I myself, I'm doing some this weekend for another group that I'm involved with on breaking the stigma of mental health for parents. So it'll be good to have your parents be a little bit more educated or be more in the know about what this transition really means for you. So if you are being offered orientation workshops for your parents, make sure that you get them set up on Zoom if they don't know how to do it, and get them on there so they can kind of understand a little bit more about the journey you're about to take on, and that way they can be more supportive and be there to back you up, and not feel like they're setting these unreasonable expectations for you because they don't understand what you're going through fully. So definitely use those resources if they're being offered to you.
Gotcha. Great advice, Alex. Definitely. I do see a question that came in, if there's any groups for parents with special needs kids. If anyone has any insight or resources.
I don't think at CAPS we haven't had any, but as a case manager, that's definitely something that I can help you with if you were interested in that. So make an appointment with the case manager, let them know what you're looking for, and then you would be transferred to me so I can help you look for some groups that may be in the community. So if it's not on campus, my job is to help you find it outside of campus. So that's definitely something I can help you with.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Megan. I see you shared the number there. So yes, please reach out if you have any questions or are looking for more information at either the CAPS website or the number listed there, 657-278-3040. So with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, wonderful weekend. Thank you all for tuning in. And as always, these are being recorded. So if you want to check these back out, we're uploading them to our YouTube account. So tune in or share with this amazing resource with folks if you'd like to do so. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. We'll catch you later. Go Titans.